What's up, brother? My name is Nick Keeland. This is Ron Smith, and we are Bros and Beers. Ron, how's it going tonight?
What's up, y'all? It's going pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing good. It's another Sunday afternoon, or I guess it's Sunday night. Your fantasy team's doing well for you, or how's that going?
It's about even split right now. It's another one of those days where we had a few games where some people didn't live up to their expectations and some surpassed them. So, it's one of those 50-50 days. How about you?
I mean, in the end, this is gambling. It's like we're at a football casino. So,
Yeah, for sure.
my teams are okay. I mean, I think I'll probably be like, let me think, 4-2, 4-3. Depends on tonight and tomorrow I'll go. But I do get to play you twice this week, and I'm stoked for that. It's always fun when we play each other. And It's like the highlight of the year. And as of right now, it's looking like you're going to beat me in one league, and I'm going to beat you in another. So that's cool.
Yeah. Even split. Can't do too much smack talking, but that's all right.
No,
Save that for another day.
Just like when we play in Madden in college football and NCAA, it's not fun when one of us just whoops the other dude.
Right. It's very true.
Yeah. As far as tonight, though, our game plan is we're going to start off with some injuries, major fantasy relevant injuries. We've got a new segment called Bros and Bums. It's basically like our players of the week in a sense. Some takeaways from every single game. And then another new segment called Bumometer. It's basically we're going to ask each other players that we're worried about or that other people could be worried about, and we're going to rate it on a scale of 0 to 10. Let you guys know. So to start off, let's get into our injuries. Ron, take it away.
Yeah, so we got six big injuries. I shouldn't say they're big in terms of like the significance of them, but some of them could potentially be. But they're definitely fantasy relevant for some pretty well-known fantasy names. Amon-Ra St. Brown, although he did return after getting injured, some of the times when these guys sustain these, adrenaline pushes them through. He did have a possible lower body injury, but again, he returned. Cooper Kupp has an ankle injury. He came out of the game and stayed out, and he was seen in a walking boot and crutches, I believe. So not good for the Rams overall, losing Kupp and Nacua in weeks 1 and 2. Rachaad White with a groin injury. He's questionable. He got the injury, I think, pretty early on in the game, came back and must have re-aggravated it. Justin Jefferson, questionable with a quad injury. He says he's going to be okay and that it's not significant. So hopefully that is true. Isaiah Pacheco, questionable with an injury, ankle injury, sorry. That happened, I think, late in the game, but he was also seen in a walking boot. And then Tyjae Spears also exited with an ankle injury. So few soft tissue ones, and then a few ankle injuries. With these guys making these cuts and stuff that they do, ankle injuries are never good. So hopefully none of them are significant. And if you own one of these guys, I know you and I are owners of a few of these players on this list. So
yeah,
tough to see, but that's football for you.
Yeah, I mean, just something to monitor for the rest of the week, and then you can decide on whether or not you need to pick somebody else up. As far as our next segment, I'm excited about this because it has to do with our name. It is called
Mm-hmm.
Bros and Bums. Ron and I will talk about quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. Basically, like player of the game, and then people that just crap the bed. So to start us off, we're going to go with quarterbacks. My bro quarterback was Sam Darnold. 24 so we do 6 point per passing touchdowns. In 4 points can be a little different, but Sam Darnold had 24.92 points, 17 of 26, 268 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, interception, and he did add 5 rushes for 32 yards. Ron, who's your bro quarterback?
My bro quarterback is Kyler Murray. He finished with we're doing points for 6 point touchdowns like our league that we mainly do, or do we want to do the 4?
6.
6. So with Kyler with 6 point passing touchdowns, he finished with 34.54 points. He was 17 of 21 for 266 and 3 touchdowns. He also rushed the ball 5 times for 59 yards. So he had a very good game.
Yeah, I'd say so. Next would be the running backs. So my bro running back is Alvin Kamara. He had 44 points against the Cowboys, 20 rushes for 115 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 catches on 3 targets for 65 yards, and another touchdown, so 4 touchdowns total. Ron, who was your bro running back for the day?
My bro running back was also a guy that I picked as my start of the week, J.K. Dobbins. Didn't do much through the air in this game, but he went over 130 yards again, 20.1 points, 17 carries, 131 yards, and a touchdown. And he did have a catch that didn't go for any yards, but still a good stat line.
Well, and he was your start of the week, so...
Exactly, so I got to shout that out.
There you go. My bro wide receiver was a player I was 1 week early on, was Jackson Smith-Njigba. He had 23.7 points in PPR, 16 targets, 12 catches for 117 yards. And then, Ron, who was your bro wide receiver?
My bro wide receiver was Marvin Harrison Jr. Who I also called as my breakout player of the week. He bounced back in a big way this week with 29 points. Catches on 8 targets and 130 yards and 2 touchdowns, and had another touchdown, could have been touchdown, that Kyler threw a pretty good ball. He got his hand on it. I think he just misjudged it so much in that game, and I was excited that he did so well, but also I knew it could have been better, so it's nice to see him bounce back in a big way this week.
Yeah, I think a lot of fantasy managers were worried about him after the dud that he had week 1.
Absolutely.
On to bro tight ends. My bro tight end was George Kittle, who had 20.6 points, 8 targets, 7 catches, 76 yards, and a touchdown. And luckily, it was against our Vikings, so love to see it. Who was your tight end, bro?
My bro tight end was the rookie Brock Bowers. Finished with 18.8 points, caught 9 balls on 9 targets and 98 yards. Good to see him contributing right away as a rookie in an offense that I don't think a lot of people expected a lot of this year, especially with Gardner Minshew as a starter, but good game out of Bowers this week.
Yeah, you love to see it as a first-round pick. People were worried about him going to the Raiders because they drafted one last year. Next segment, or next part of the segment, is our bums. Same thing, we're going to list off all the fantasy relevant positions. So starting off with a bum quarterback, I'm going to go with Jared Goff. Technically, he threw for 300 yards, but only 10.78 points, 34-55 for 307 yards. He didn't throw any touchdowns, threw 2 picks, and he added 2 rushes for 5 yards. So not great. Who is your bum quarterback?
My bum quarterback is Anthony Richardson. Wasn't a terrible game, but again, he was pretty inefficient passing the ball, 17 to 34 for 204 yards, a touchdown, and 3 picks. And for him, a pretty pedestrian 4 carries for 37 yards. You know, a lot of people drafted him for his rushing potentials. So to see him not really do much on the ground is a little disappointing. So hopefully he can bounce back from that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll talk about him later. That's for sure.
Yep.
My bum wide receiver is Mike Evans. 7.2 points, 3 catches on 6 targets for 42 yards. Not great. As far as
definitely expect more out of him.
Yeah, and he might have weeks like this going forward if Godwin continues to do what he did today.
Right.
Who is your
Agreed.
bum wide receiver, Ron?
My bum wide receiver is Jamar Chase. 4 catches on 5 targets for 35 yards, so 7.5 points in PPR. He looked like he was just locked down this week. It looked like McDuffie was following him all over the field, and if Joe Burrow doesn't have any time to pass, it's going to be hard to try to hit Chase downfield. I know that's his big calling card, and Bengals offensive line looked terrible today, so hopefully there's better weeks to come from him, because obviously he's drafted as like a top 5 receiver in most fantasy drafts this year.
Yeah, it's looking like whoever plays the Chiefs, they're just going to have a hard time because that D-line, their front 7 is insane.
Very good.
As far as a bum tight end, staying with the same game, I'm going with Travis Kelce. 1.6 points. Drafted as a top 3 tight end. 1 catch on 3 targets for 5 yards. And he did add 1 rush for 2 yards. So, just looking old. Let's be realistic. He might be spending too much time with Taylor Swift. Who knows? Hopefully they don't see this.
Yeah, his biggest play of the game. He did have like a 50-yard reception that got called back because of an illegal hands to the face.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely sucks. But
yeah,
what can you do?
What do you do? I mean, either way, our industry is all about production, and you could talk all about, well, if there wasn't this penalty, if there wasn't this, that, he could have had a much better day. But in the end, he only had 1 catch. So,
oh yeah.
As far as your bum tight end, who'd you pick?
My bum tight end is another guy that was, he's probably the first one taken off fantasy drafts in this year because he finished as the tight end 1 last year. Sam Laporta, 3.3 points, 2 catches on 3 targets for 13 yards. These are 2 guys we definitely expect more of on a week-to-week basis, and it's 2 dud weeks in a row for Kelce and Laporta. Hopefully this is not a preview of what's to come this year, because there's going to be a lot of people disappointed, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see better weeks from both of them. They obviously have the talent. Kelce is 35, I think, where Laporta's 23, 24. So,
yeah, Laporta's in his second year. Kelce's in like his 10th or 11th.
Yeah, so 2 sides of it. But either way, we expected more out of him.
Yeah.
On to, if you had something else, go ahead, add it.
I would say we didn't go over our bum running backs, so let's do that one.
Oh, my bad. Skipped running backs. Yeah. My bum running back, and it's no surprise here, I wasn't high on him this going into the season. Najee Harris, 8.4 points, 17 rushes for 69 yards. He did have a catch on 2 targets for 5 yards. It's nothing much to say here. He's probably going to be on this list every week.
We'll talk about that offense a little bit more too here.
Yeah.
Later on. Yeah, my bum running back was Aaron Jones, somebody who looked really solid last week. Kind of puts up a dud this week, 9.8 points, 9 carries for 32 yards. He did have 5 catches on 6 targets for 36 yards,
Helps.
but he lost a huge fumble on the goal line. He was literally about to cross the goal line, and I believe Fred Warner punched it out, literally, when he was about to cross the goal line. So that's an 8-point swing. I think if he doesn't fumble that ball and scores a touchdown, he's probably not on this list, but he did. So that's one of those things where like something happened when if it didn't happen, it could have been this. But here we are. Lost a fumble when he's about to score a touchdown, and now you're a bum.
Bum. I mean, if he doesn't fumble that ball, Ty Chandler doesn't get as much work. So
True.
It was
Yeah.
it's something to look at every week.
Yeah, absolutely. Aaron Jones is not one to lose the ball very much, though. They were saying on the broadcast it's like his second lost fumble in two years. I don't think that's going to be a concern moving forward, but I think it's still going to be a pretty even split probably moving forward with those two.
Yeah, I mean, it's something to monitor. We knew Ty Chandler was going to be a player to keep an eye on. They didn't spend a ton of money on Jones, and yeah, we'll see. On to our next segment. This is just, I wouldn't even call it a segment. It's just our Sunday recap. We're just going to give you takeaways from every game, starting with the New Orleans and Dallas game. New Orleans ended up winning 44-19. It was never close. Dallas looked terrible. Start us off, Ron. What are the takeaways from this game?
Well, I think the biggest one is Alvin Kamara scoring 4 touchdowns. He had 180 total yards, 4 catches. You know, he was I think he was mostly drafted as a RB1, low end RB1, high RB2. Not really knowing how this New Orleans offense was going to work with Derek Carr coming off of a mediocre year, but they look good. And I definitely think off this performance, you got to keep Kamara in your lineups as your top running back going forward.
Yeah, I mean,
for sure.
Hopefully, these first two games from the Saints aren't flukes. They're just beating the hell out of the two teams. But RB1 start every game.
Absolutely.
As far as our next takeaway, CeeDee Lamb is probably the wide receiver one. Maybe Jefferson, we'll see. But 65-yard touchdown. There's nothing else to say. Just start him every week.
Yeah. I think with the Tua injury, that definitely brings Tyreek's value down. JJ's hurt. Jamar's not playing up to his standards. Amon-Ra's hurt. AJ Brown is hurt. I mean, that's another thing we could have mentioned, but I think everybody knew, Brown was out before the games even started today. But yeah, Lamb is, I think this was kind of like probably a little above his floor, especially from what we saw last season. But yeah, if he's on my team, I'm never taking him out of the lineup anyway. So
no, and nobody would.
Yeah, right. Another wide receiver on the other side, Rashid Shaheed. Do we think he's creeping up to wide receiver 2 status? Like, is this a potential 1A, 1B with Olave here?
It might be a stretch because Olave was drafted as a high wide receiver 2, maybe 13th off the board. But watching Shaheed and Carr work, the dude is just fast. It looks like New Orleans is putting him into a part of their game plan, doing a lot of he's doing everything. He had a lot of short yardage stuff that he was able to just run away from people, and then he did have I'd have to look up the yardage. He had a really long throw. It was his touchdown, He,
70-yard catch, yeah.
yeah, it's going to be close. I mean, both of them could have 5 to 7 catches every game, and I think both of them are startable. Olave, I would still give him the edge just
Hmm.
because it's Chris Olave, but
Yeah.
Shaheed is he. I like him.
Yeah.
He'll be good.
This was another game where New Orleans didn't have to throw the ball a lot, so we could still see better days from the pass catchers of this team. So
Yeah,
when Kamara does so well, you don't really have to throw the ball and do any of that. But yeah,
yeah. I mean, the next point on this game, next takeaway from this game is Dak's looking mediocre. Um,
yeah,
Something to monitor, maybe be worried about. There's no running game, so he's going to have to carry them every single game, and they can triple team CeeDee Lamb. No Ferguson, so if he can come back, that'll help. Cooks can
hmm
pick up some slack. They'll be all right, but it's looking like the loss of. No, I was gonna say Gallup, but he was on the Raiders last year, wasn't he? I think so.
yes,
Yeah, so that
hmm
doesn't really matter. The loss of Tony Pollard, I think, could be huge for them because defenses can just queue on their passing game.
yeah. I think Dallas has played two pretty good defenses. Like New Orleans and Cleveland could end up being top 12 defenses this year, so maybe that played into it a little bit. But hopefully, better days to come for Dak.
Hope so. If you're a Dak
Yeah,
owner, maybe look into the waivers, and if there's
yeah. See if you can
a
find a decent backup.
Baker Mayfield or somebody along the lines of that, just pick them up and see.
Hmm.
On to our next game, though, we had the Buccaneers versus the Lions. Surprisingly, at least for me, the Buccaneers won 20-16.
Hmm.
What's the first thing you want to talk about?
I think the biggest thing is, we talked about him earlier as a bum. Sam Laporta puts up another dud. It's it's a tough question, but we got to ask it. Like, is it time to sit him? A lot of people drafted. He's the first tight end off the board in almost every draft. But
He's got like 10 points combined.
yeah, I mean, there's really nothing going on. Like the two biggest weeks out of tight ends so far are like rookie Bowers had a great game, Kittle had a great game, and the other great game this week was Mike Gesicki,
Hmm.
and last week was Likely, like both out of nowhere. But
We'll talk
if
about
it's
some of
me, I
them.
have yeah. With Laporte, it's tough to sit him because you drafted him in the first 3 or 4 rounds as your tight end one. So hopefully this is the worst we're gonna see out of them. It's the Detroit looks kind of lackluster on offense so far. So hopefully they can figure something out and pick it back up.
I mean, so far, he's been the fifth option on that team behind Amon-Ra,
Right.
Jameson, and then the two running backs. If he can
Mm-hmm.
creep up, I don't think he's going to overtake Gibbs as the number two. And Montgomery's looking like the obvious number three, but Jameson is like hopefully he's the player that they drafted for the Lions, and that he can take some of the attention off St. Brown and Gibbs, which actually he was drafted the year before Gibbs. But yeah, another player to
Mm-hmm.
monitor. If you have another tight end, you might be able to play matchups. And this is all early. He could come back next week and have 10 for 100 yards, and I wouldn't be surprised. But
Right.
Goff is struggling. I mean, in 2 games, the Lions put up, what was it, 23 last week?
42 is 26 last week and 16 this week, so 42.
Yep, it's not great. I mean, they were
Yeah.
projected to they could put that up in 1 week. So,
Right.
to our next takeaway, just start anybody on Tampa Bay. Baker didn't have a great day, but he was fine. Rashad White, if he can be healthy, you're starting him. Godwin and Mike Evans, you're starting both of them. Evans didn't have a great day, but I think that was a fluke. So
Yeah, we definitely saw Evans's floor today. So I think in Detroit's front seven's pretty good. Aiden Hutchinson is a nightmare for
4.5
anybody.
sacks today. So yeah,
Yeah, so I think to still put up what he did, Baker got a rushing touchdown. Godwin looked really good. I think that, like I said, this is a floor for Evans. White was hurt, so I think you're starting to see that we can trust the Tampa Bay offense a little more. So yeah,
yeah. I mean, we knew after last week that they were going to be great, and it could have been better, but you can't complain. Well, you
right.
can, but I think they'll be fine. I already mentioned him a little bit, but Jameson Williams is going to be a wide receiver 3 with potential wide receiver 2 upside. It's more like a 1A 1C because he's not close to 1B. I don't think he looks fully healthy. He can actually run some routes. I was surprised. Coming out of college, I thought he was just gonna be a deep threat. But you don't draft a guy at 12. I think he was in the real NFL draft if he is just a stud. The dude's a bro. He's a bro.
Right.
Start him
He
up.
is.
You could, in my other league, I thought about starting him over Jaden Reed this week because Malik Willis, and I should have. I started Jaden Reed because I was like, well, I didn't trust that Jameson Williams.
Somebody's got to touch the ball.
Yeah, exactly. And Willis was garbage, so whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Malik Willis,
speaking of Malik Willis, let's move on to that game, Green Bay against Indianapolis.
yeah, Green Bay ended up beating the Colts 16-10, and just a terrible game by both.
Yeah,
offenses.
I don't think anybody saw that coming. I think people were expecting a better game out of the Colts, for sure.
Besides Jonathan Taylor, it's rough. I mean, Richardson, he had a great game last week, but as far as Green Bay, would you agree that until Love comes back, this offense is going to be terrible? They're really going to miss him, and the only player that you can start is Josh Jacobs. Like, would you start Jaden Reed or?
I mean, when you run the ball 53 times, you can't really expect a lot out of your pass catchers. I mean, Willis actually, like, for what he did passing the ball, 12 of 14 for 122 and a touchdown, like, he did well with what he was allowed to do. But Josh Jacobs had 32 carries. Like, if that's going to be the game plan for them moving forward, I don't think you want to throw anybody in that's a Green Bay pass catcher. Like you said, Jacobs is probably the only one that's worth a start, and everybody else is probably just going to be, if they have a good game, it's probably going to be a major boom or bust situation in Green Bay for pass catchers.
Yeah, I would say just sit them all to be safe, because
absolutely.
He's not going to throw for 300 yards, probably $150 every week, and I have Love in 3 leagues, so I'm praying. I did see though earlier yesterday that they're expecting him back week 5. So for the next,
I mean, they kept them off IR for a reason. So
correct. As far as the Colts, Richardson, if he's not giving you a lot of work with his legs, it's gonna be rough. He's not gonna throw for 300 yards. Like, I don't think he ever will. He doesn't have good completion percentage. Give him some time. We'll see. He was drafted 5th overall. But if you're a Pittman owner, I'd be severely worried. I feel like if you have another option, maybe look that way.
Yeah, he's slowly creeping into wide receiver 3 status for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think with Richardson, like, you could still consider this kind of like his rookie year. He played like 2.5 games and then didn't get to play because of the shoulder injury. But if you have him, I definitely say, like, if you have a decent quarterback that has the matchup, it might be might be time to start considering whether that guy is a better option than Richardson is right now until he kind of looks like he's a little more comfortable. But
I'd agree. I mean, his floor is decent because of his legs, but today he didn't use it much.
Right.
So
right,
he has to be wary of his injury history. I mean, yeah, he could probably easily run 150 yards every week, but kind of like Daniels, they're asking him to run less because they want him to stay on the field. So
yeah. Quick update. Quick update on the game right now. I'm watching it. Joe Mixon just went down. He got his ankle rolled up on.
Ooh.
And it looked like it was one of those hip drop tackles that they're trying to take out of football. But he definitely got his ankle rolled up on, and it didn't look good. They didn't, surprisingly, because the guy grabbed his hip and like dropped his lower body. But yeah, sorry to interrupt the takeaways, but
no, you're good.
We're doing this during Sunday night. Like I'm watching it. I don't know if you are, but
if you see something exciting or fantasy relevant, please chime in with it.
For sure. Joe Mixon went down. I'd be surprised if he comes back. Honestly, that's how bad it looked.
If it's one of those hip tackles, they've never turned out well, which is why they're trying to get rid of it.
Right.
But as far as a defender, like it's a natural move. So how do you prevent that?
Right. Yeah. It's tough, but yeah.
I'd like to do a small 10-minute video on all the different rule changes and our opinions on that. But the last takeaway from the Colts and Green Bay game is that Pittman, he still had 7 targets, but Pierce also had 7 targets, and Richardson seems like he has good chemistry with him. I don't think Pierce is like startable. He's maybe a flex. Maybe wide receiver 3. We'll see. I mean,
if he has enough chemistry with Richardson, I mean, he had a couple big touchdowns last week. He scored another touchdown. Like, I'm pretty sure he's got all receiving touchdowns for the Colts. So if like he continues to do that, who else are you gonna? I mean,
I would say if Pittman has another terrible game next week, I would put Pierce ahead of him because that's 3.
Yeah.
You know, you could say 2 games. All right, it's fluky. Green Bay has a decent defense. Houston's middle of the pack as well, but I just don't think that Richardson's going to be a great passer, and he reminds me a lot of Justin Fields in the sense where he only looks at one guy.
He doesn't go through his progressions.
Correct, and if that one guy is Pierce and not Pittman, something to monitor. But as far as our next game, we got to talk about Jets and Tennessee, or Jets and Titans. Jets beat them 24-17, and if you're Breece Hall, you're excited, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Breece Hall owner. If you're Breece Hall, you're excited, of course, too. But
heavily involved again, running and receiving, 21 total touches. He was the most targeted player on the Jets. And he had a sweet touchdown catch. I don't know if you saw that, but he like went up and over the defender to catch the ball. Like, it was a sweet catch. Like, you would not expect a catch like that out of a running back. So if you see that, like, Breece Hall, like, he's, especially with McCaffrey out. I know Bijan hasn't played yet, but is Hall the new overall RB1 after what we've seen from 2 weeks?
I'd say so. I mean, going into the year, we knew McCaffrey was hurt, but he was damn close to McCaffrey. I thought about taking him 1 in my best ball league, partially because McCaffrey was hurt, but now that we know he's out for 4 weeks, I think so. And his backup, like, he could have had a monster game if Allen didn't steal 2 touchdowns away from him. If I was the Jets, I would, like, there's got to be some plays in there where Allen's the running back, and you could totally play Breece Hall in the slot. And he would just destroy linebackers. But if you're,
I think we're probably.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say if both of these running backs are gonna be this effective, I think you could probably that you're probably gonna see the Jets use them like they did today, especially if like in real life football it's gonna be this effective. It's probably gonna happen. He's definitely not gonna overtake Breece Hall, but something to keep an eye on.
I'd say if you're the Jets, and it'd be fun to play with, get some formations in there where Rodgers in the shotgun, and then you got Allen or Hall, whichever order, one on one side, one on the other, and they could do. It'd be fun. I feel like to watch.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but if you're
sticking.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just say if you're, we're just talking about Braylon Allen. He scored twice. If he's available and you're a Breece Hall owner, it might be good to pick him up. If Breece ever goes down, Allen is going to get that workload. Might not be bad to have him as a stash.
I agree. I mean, he got a bunch of the buzz in the preseason that he was going to steal work from him, and seems like he's going to do that. On the other side of the ball, not a lot to talk about, but what do you think about the Titans?
I mean, Levis doesn't look very good. I was never very high on him. He definitely looks like he's still young and doesn't really know what he's doing.
Did you see the play real quick where he tried to pitch it? He jumped over the defender and tried to pitch it.
Yeah. That's just silly. Why would you do that? I don't know.
Bum.
But anyways, that's inexperience probably. But yeah, Tony Pollard was meh. And I think that the one standout here is Calvin Ridley, 2 total touchdowns. I think it's definitely going to benefit the Titans to try to get the ball in his hands as much as possible. He's the most explosive player on that team.
And they used him on the ground too.
Exactly, he had the carry for 10 yards and a touchdown. I mean, what do you think? I know a lot of people drafted him as a low end wide receiver 2, wide receiver high end 3. Is this the usage we saw? He only touched the ball 5 times, but he made it worthwhile. What do you think of him going forward?
I think it's hard to trust Levis, so I think right now I'd keep him at a wide receiver 3. But if we see another week where Levis can actually get the ball in his hands and they can scheme up some plays where he can be a playmaker, easily wide receiver 2, even with DeAndre Hopkins coming back. I mean, dude's just too talented.
Yeah. Yeah, moving on to the next game. I think this was actually one of my hot takes from last week, that Minnesota was going to upset San Francisco. Awesome game. Minnesota looks really good. But we'll start off with San Francisco with Jordan Mason. He stayed hot. Are we firing him up as a low-end RB1, top 10 running back the rest of as far as he's playing, I should say, because McCaffrey will be back and he will overtake that position, but when he's on the field, are we firing him up as a RB1?
I think so. I think even if McCaffrey, if he continues the next 2 weeks to go over 100 yards and be effective, they need to keep McCaffrey healthy. So I could see them maybe a 70-30 split, 80-20 at the highest. He's talented, and until McCaffrey comes back, I got him at I think I had him at 6 this week, which seems absurd. He didn't live up to 6, but I top 10 for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Debo definitely looked good again. He had over 100 yards. I definitely think if you got him, you got to keep firing him up as a wide receiver 2. And then Ayuk, another dud from him for a guy who just signed a big contract. Is it time to sit him?
That's tough to answer because Ayuk was drafted as some people's, depending on how you drafted in your strategy, Ayuk could be your number 1 wide receiver. At least your wide receiver 2. I don't know if it's time to sit him yet. he's the player that if you have him on your bench, he's going to go off. Like, I don't think I could sit him because your other options aren't going to be great.
Yeah,
but maybe
I definitely think it's
I was gonna say maybe you drop him down to your wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3, and you just start hitting the waivers. And it's early in the season, but it's not great. And Purdy didn't have a great game either. So
agreed. And then last one for this game on the other side of the ball for the Vikings, Sam Darnold looking good. He stayed pretty efficient as far as throwing the ball. 2 touchdowns and a pick. Had the nice long touchdown to Justin Jefferson. It'd be awesome if that connection can continue to thrive throughout the year, and hopefully JJ's not hurt too bad. But what do you make of the running backs on the Vikings, Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler? Do you think they're going to be like the 1A, 1B moving forward? It looked like they were pretty evenly split. Actually, Ty Chandler outcarried Aaron Jones this game.
He did. Aaron Jones had the big fumble, and I am a big supporter of Ty Chandler. He's young. He's got fresh legs. He looks explosive. It might surprise people, but like he reminds me a lot of Pacheco in the sense of when he gets the ball, dude is angry. Like he
runs angry.
He's on a mission. Aaron Jones is very talented, and I think he fits in well with us because he can catch the ball. But Ty Chandler, this whatever way could be a 60-40 split. I don't think unless one of them gets hurt, nobody's gonna lead. You know, we're not gonna have a bell cow back. But I could see Ty Chandler in 3 or 4 weeks maybe overtaking.
I think the way that they were used today, where, you know, Ty Chandler outcarried Jones. I think if you have Chandler be your main runner of the ball and Jones as your pass catcher, that's going to be the best use for these two. You know, Jones is definitely the preferred pass catcher out of the two, and he's a proven pass catcher. And Ty Chandler, like you said, just looked explosive. And I think if they keep the split this way, the Vikings' run game is going to look a lot better than it did last year.
Yeah, I mean, they could just play with the hot hand every week, and they'd be fine.
Very true. I think they definitely have that luxury with these two guys. So
yeah, it's fun to see as a Vikings fan to go 2-0. I was not expecting this. Yes, I'm a Vikings fan, but I'm also a realist. So
yes, I think a lot of people weren't expecting us to. I think a lot of people were expecting us to win one game through the first 8 weeks, and that one game was the Giants. So coming up with the big win against San Fran is good. But on to next game we want to talk about, Seattle and New England. Seattle won in overtime. Biggest takeaway here, I think, is the 2 wide receivers for the Seahawks. And I know one of these guys was a player you loved coming into the year, and I think you could consider this. You know, he's a second-year player, but I think you could consider this his breakout game.
Yeah, I had him as a breakout last week, and it didn't work out. But I had him as a breakout for the year overall. I think he's gonna overtake Lockett as the wide receiver 2, and it's looking like.
Absolutely.
Hard to say. DK's the man out there, but if what do you have? 14 targets, I think. I talked about him earlier.
Between the two of them, they had 30 targets.
16 targets, 12 catches, and 117 yards.
Yeah. DK had 14 and JSN had 16. I think they're both like a really good complement to each other, because DK's the big downfield threat. He's super fast, super big. And Smith and Jigba is the quick route runner. It's the perfect deep to short intermediate combo for these guys. I think we could expect a lot of weeks like this where, especially if Geno's
Playing good.
throwing the ball like he did. Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
these guys, you could start these guys every week.
Yeah, I got DK as like a high upside wide receiver 2. He'll get wide receiver 1 numbers 5 times this week or 5 times this year. Where JSN low wide receiver 2 with
Hmm.
wide receiver 1 upside, like legit. And as far as the quarterback, I think Gino, with these 2 weapons, you got Kenneth Walker. I think you can trust him as a low end quarterback 1. Matchups will help, but he's got 2.
Hmm.
If JSN is actually what he was today, you could argue they have the best 2 wide receivers on any team. And there's some
One of
good
the best
ones,
duos for sure.
but
Yeah,
as
they could definitely be a top wide receiver duo for sure.
yeah, as far as the Patriots, anybody you're excited about? Like, what are your thoughts on the Patriots?
Hunter Henry definitely looked good. Leading receiver, I mean, he had more targets. The only wide receiver, the leading wide receiver was Jalen Polk. He had 3 targets. And then it was Ramondre Stevenson with 5, who's obviously a running back. And then Hunter Henry with 12, 8 for 109.
And
Can
he
we
was
start him as a tight? Can we consider him a tight end 1 going forward if this is how he's going to get used?
I would say, yeah. I mean, if of course, if he's being used like this, he'd be the number 1 tight
Hmm.
end. But if we've got a lot of tight
Right.
ends that are struggling, which we do, there's not
Right.
a clear. We think there's a clear top 5, but if
We
Henry,
thought.
yeah, yes, we thought. Who knows about now? But I would say a realistic option is low end tight end 1 with tight end 6 upside. Like
Mhm.
he for the Chargers, he was a second round pick, I think. I'd
Yeah,
have
he's
to look
super
it up, but
talented.
he was a high draft pick. He couldn't stay healthy,
Yeah.
and he's even with
Yeah.
Patriots last year, he just can't stay healthy. So if he can stay healthy,
Right.
Brissett seems to favor him. Start him up, pick him up
Yeah,
if he's available. Pick him up.
he's definitely super talented. I think he was a second round pick, and yeah, I just think it's been a matter of since he's been with the Patriots not having anybody to throw him the ball, and Brissett's not gonna blow the top off anybody, but he's usually pretty efficient. So if he's using the tight end as a check down or his intermediate guy, Hunter Henry could continue to put up numbers. So, but moving on, I think the last one we want to talk about for this game is the 2 running backs for the Patriots. Gibson was definitely more productive with his touches, but Ramondre Stevenson still dominated the touches again, had the touchdown. Do we think these 2 can exist together in the backfield? Like, if you're in need of a running back, do you think we could start Gibson?
I think Gibson is probably a bye week replacement. If Ramondre goes down, he's going to get a lot. He's going to get all the work.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not worried about Ramondre. I wasn't really worried about him anyways. But this could be a backfield where there's 160 rushing yards every week. And probably 70-30 split.
Yeah.
But they counter each other great. If you have to start Gibson as your RB2 in a deep league, I'm not like that's perfectly fine.
Right. Yeah, nothing wrong with it.
Mm-mm.
Especially if he is that productive with his touches.
Yeah. As far as our next game though, and there's a player in this game that I'm actually super excited about. Giants versus the Commanders. The Commanders end up winning 21-18, and that guy is Malik Neighbors. He is wide receiver 2, probably with potential wide receiver 1 upside, and they haven't even used him on the ground much, but a ton of volume. He didn't have the greatest play at the end. Like he is a reason why they lost, because he dropped that ball on 4th down. But I think his floor is wide receiver 2, just because he's going to get 10 targets a game. And Daniel Jones didn't look terrible. Like, yeah, Neighbors is legit.
I think whatever they do, yeah, I think if whatever they do, if he keeps getting this volume, he's going to keep putting up these numbers. He's definitely got some wide receiver 1 upside. Like I said it before the season started, that if they're getting the ball in his hands any way they can, he's going to produce. So hopefully that can continue.
Yeah, I mean, he's their whole offense. So
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Even though this next guy, Devin Singletary, he's the one that's getting all the touches out of that backfield.
he looked explosive. Like he was.
He did.
There was like 3 plays in a row where he juked somebody. It broke their ankles. I mean, where would you, if you're starting him as your RB2, are you okay with that?
I think if he's on my team as an RB2, I'm definitely happy with that. If he can continue to scratch the surface of 100 yards and score a touchdown, I don't think he's going to do much through the air. But
Daniel Jones doesn't dump it off much, so.
Yeah, and it's tough to. I think it's tough to find. It's tough to find a consistent RB1. You get all these injuries and stuff that happens. Like, if he keeps putting numbers up like that, like, he could be considered a low-end RB1 if we keep seeing running backs produce the way that they have been. So, yeah, I think RB2 for sure. And if he stays consistent with what he did like today, he has RB1 upside.
Yeah, I think for him to get up to the RB1, he'd have to start catching more balls.
Yeah,
but
sure.
You never know. I mean, yeah, if he can get over 100 yards and score a touchdown every week, it'd be great. On the Washington side, though, Daniels, I'm not worried about. Yeah, this is probably his floor game. He didn't run a ton. He was extremely efficient as a passer, so there's a lot of hope for him. And he hasn't even included his top guy yet, McLaurin. So, not worried. Start Daniels.
Yeah.
I have him in one
league.
One league. That league, dude, I have. It's not great, but I have him. I have Love hurt, and then I just picked up Fields because why not? But in that league, I'm starting Daniels even when Love comes back. I'm probably gonna start him. So.
Yeah. I think the one concern is just not being able to finish drives. If he can do that, I know he did last week a little bit better, where they actually scored a few touchdowns. He finishes some of those drives, and his stat line looks a lot different today, and we probably aren't worried about him. I mean, I don't think either one of us are worried at all about him, but
No.
But yeah, then the running back situation in Washington. Brian Robinson dominated on the ground. He saw 9 more carries in Eckler. He was a lot more efficient with them. Eckler caught 3 passes for 47 yards. I think we knew this was kind of going to be how this split was going to go. And I think that's going to continue. So expect more out of the Washington. Expect the same out of the Washington backfield moving forward, I think. And I definitely think we can. I think if you got Robinson, you start him as an RB2. He's not going to catch the ball, but he's a good runner, and he's going to get probably 80% of the goal line carries in this offense,
if not all of them.
Right.
I unfortunately thought about it. I thought about starting Robinson as my flex over Pickens against you. because I knew they were playing the Giants. They're going to run a lot.
You didn't. You're still gonna beat me in that league anyway, so
I know, but
doesn't matter.
points matter at the end, and we're going for championships. But yeah, I ended up starting Charbonnet, so it's whatever. But yeah, Robinson, start him every week, RB2, and if they start implementing some option stuff, some trick play, not trick plays, but some trickery, like he could blow up. I was excited for him last year.
Yeah.
And now you got Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
He's very sneaky. But on to the next game.
I agree.
No surprise here. Carolina sucks. The Chargers beat the Panthers 26-3. My first takeaway. Actually, you know what? I'm going to let you take this one because you take this one.
Yeah, Dobbins officially back and better than ever. I think we can expect to see more of this from him. We knew how good of a running back he is. He just always had the problem of staying on the field. So went for over 130 again, another touchdown. You're definitely starting him. Well, if you have him on your team, you drafted him in like late round, and you probably weren't expecting to start him. But now you got this legit option that is kind of coming out of nowhere, and I think regardless of who you have, he should be one of your top running backs you start. He's got RB1 upside, and he was even out-touched by Edwards. And he still did what he did. He's been super good with the opportunities he's got, and I think he's gonna start to see more opportunities, and that's just gonna equal more production. So Dobbins is solid.
Yeah,
and the Chargers are going to lean heavily on that run game because that's what Harbaugh likes to do. So,
the great thing about Dobbins is, like you said, you drafted him late. He was probably your running back 3 or running back 4. If you have 3 legit running backs potentially, I would try to trade. And if you're weak in wide receiver or something, I would try to trade somebody else. Keep Dobbins as your running back 2, and try to get a stud wide receiver. Or, I mean, if you can get the world for Dobbins right now, I would, and you have 2 other running backs, I would do it. But him as my wide receiver or running back 2, I would be ecstatic. As far as,
I was gonna say, like,
go ahead.
I was just real quick. If you don't think Dobbins is gonna continue doing the production he's got so far, sell high. Mm-hmm. There's gonna be somebody. I'm one of those guys that was asking about him earlier this week, like, hey, as he's on your bench right now, like, what's the price for him? And they definitely could have sold high for him. They didn't. He had another good week, but, he could definitely.
Do you want to
Some
hear?
people probably only think it's a matter of time before he gets hurt again, but who knows?
Do you want to hear a trade offer? There was a guy in my league, in our Superflex league that we're in together. Guy in my league, we were talking. He wants JJ and Love, but he really wants JJ. And it almost, we could have put in a pick, but it almost got to the point where Dobbins and MHJ or Brian Thomas Jr. for JJ. And after this week, I was killing myself that I didn't trade JJ for Dobbins and MHJ. Marvin Harrison Jr., I should say. Who knows?
Dude.
Dobbins could easily get hurt. But as of today, it was hard to watch him go off. To stay on the Chargers, though, he was a late pick for me in our Dynasty League. Quentin Johnson, 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Can we trust him now? Is he overtaking McConkey? Like, is this just a fluke? He clearly has a talent. I mean, he was a first-round pick in the draft. What's his upside for the rest of the season?
He's obviously talented. We know he's a big dude that could be a big contributor in the red zone, which he was today. I think like rest of season value, rest of season upside. The Chargers are gonna run the ball a lot. That's the scheme that Harbaugh likes to run. But I think if you start to see games like this from him, Herbert's going to start to trust him a little bit more.
I think it was the second touchdown he had was exciting.
Yeah, he's got potential, he's got talent, and I think moving forward, if
Where are you ranking him?
as long as Herbert can ranking him,
Like, what do you have him as? Like a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, flex?
I think right now he's like you can't. This is the one thing he's done in his career is had a couple touchdown catches in a game. Maybe it's a little too early to trust him, but something to monitor. If you need a guy that could potentially boom, if you're unsure about other players in your lineup, he could be a flex guy, wide receiver 3 guy. There's nobody else really to catch passes on this team. I think Palmer is hurt or banged up a little bit. McConkey is the slot guy. McConkey's probably not going to be like a big touchdown guy. Like Johnson could be the red zone target for Herbert moving forward.
Yeah, I feel like he could be like the Mike Williams. Where complete
Absolutely.
boom or bust. As far as the Panthers, just don't start anyone ever. I mean, nobody on this team is worth starting.
Yeah.
And it sucks because even when Brooks comes back, it won't matter. If you have a defense,
I think when
going up against Carolina, just start them every week.
they'll probably be one of our starts of the week every week, whoever's playing against Carolina. And you never know, they could turn it around. They got a new coach, it's a new system, they're all learning. But Bryce Young's just still doesn't look good. He doesn't look like he's progressed at all in his development, and it sucks because I know a lot of people drafted Brooks as like a potential second half like league winner, and I'm one of them. Hopefully he's talented enough to where he can do a little bit of something, but you never know until he gets back. He's coming off a major injury, so we'll have to see what happens. But as of right now, yeah, I wouldn't touch anybody on this Carolina offense.
No, it's not much else to say.
No.
As far as our next game, we had the Browns versus the Jaguars. Browns were victorious, 18-13. I wouldn't start. We'll talk about our bumometer, whichever one you want to say. I think bumometer is better, but we'll be talking about some players in this game. Browns offense is going to be bottom 10 probably. The only player I might think about starting is Cooper. And at this point, I didn't want him on any team, and I didn't draft him. I would be
I didn't either.
Okay as like a boomer bust flex at this point. Wide receiver 3, because he's going to have a lot of games like this.
Yeah, I definitely think their offense is mediocre. Watson definitely hasn't found his groove after all those allegations came out of his sexual assault stuff. He definitely hasn't looked the same. And I think because of that, it's going to trickle down and affect every other skill player on this team. I think their offense is going to be mediocre at best. And yeah, and then kind of the same thing for Jacksonville. They're 0-2 now. Their offense has looked mediocre at best through 2 weeks. Lawrence is a number 1 overall pick. Super inefficient. I mean, he just hasn't looked good this year. ETN, again, is not, you expect him to be a big boom guy. He hasn't done anything. You got Brian Thomas with a long catch, but I would probably, besides ETN, because you drafted him so high, if you drafted him in probably rounds 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
You start him because you probably don't have a better option. But besides that, I don't know. Maybe Brian Thomas because he could boom for you every now and then because he's such a freak. But yeah, other than that, I don't know about you, but I think I'd mostly stay away from the Jaguars.
Yeah, I think in like a dynasty league, Thomas Jr.'s somebody I want. Tank Bigsby. Yeah, he got hurt earlier, so maybe that'll help out ETN. I'm going to say a real quick hot take on Lawrence. I know he's the number 1 overall pick, and he was regarded as like the top prospect since like Andrew Luck. I have a feeling that his Clemson wide receivers made him look better than he really is. because he had a lot
Yeah.
of them. But yeah, I don't want him. He's a quarterback 2 in my mind. I think he's overrated. And this is year 3? Year 3 on him? Year 4?
I think it's 4.
Yeah, we know what he is
Hold
now.
on one second.
I mean, either way,
Yeah,
he is what he is. He's never gonna be like, he will probably never make a Pro Bowl. I don't think he's made one yet.
yeah.
I could be wrong.
This is year 4. I don't think he has either. In Jacksonville, this could be their downfall, signing him to that major contract, and he just has. There hasn't been a single. There's one season he passed for 4,100 yards and 25 touchdowns, but beyond that, it's been like nothing impressive, really.
No. He might be available in some leagues coming up soon. But
Right.
the next game we're going to talk about is Ravens and Raiders. Surprisingly, the Raiders beat the Ravens 26-23. I hate to say this because I was high on them going into this year. That's Zamir White. Just stay away from the Raiders' backfield. It's terrible. Zamir White. I wouldn't drop him, but yeah, that Raiders offense is tough. Besides Devontae Adams. Speaking of Devontae Adams,
And Brock Bowers.
True.
Had a good game as well.
True.
But yeah.
I would say Adams and Bowers from real football and fantasy are a great, I guess real football, a great 1-2 punch. Devontae Adams is probably, like, if he has games like this, which we know he can have, a low-end wide receiver 1 with, like, complete wide receiver 1 upside. And Bowers, he could be this year's, he wasn't drafted as late, but like this year's Laporta. Easily finished with how the tight end position is. He could finish off as the tight end 1.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think if he, dude, 9 targets, 9 catches. If you got a guy that's catching every ball you're throwing at him, especially for Minshew, who's like typically a backup. If you're looking for a guy to trust and he's catching every pass you throw at him, that's tough to look anybody else's way. And then you have Adams. He's Devontae. This is what he does.
Yeah, he's just
he just produces.
He's a bro.
Yeah, he is a bro. But yeah, other side of the ball, another wide receiver. Zay Flowers looks like he's a legit wide receiver too. He definitely looks like Lamar's go-to guy. I would definitely keep starting him as a wide receiver 2 at least, with wide receiver 1 upside. He's quick, he's fast, he's got good hands, and Lamar likes to throw him the ball. So tough to not like that, even though Baltimore is starting the season 0-2 after making the AFC Championship game last year. But Zay Flowers out-targeted everybody else by 6. He had 11, 7 for 91 and a touchdown. If that's your wide receiver 2 and he's putting up those numbers, you love it. So
yeah, I'm cool with it. I don't know him in any leagues, but yeah, as wide
I don't
receiver
either.
2, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
There is,
Speaking of a guy, go ahead.
well, I was gonna say their next player, because I am playing him against you this week. Derrick Henry. Luckily, he scored. I got him as like a RB2. He has wide receiver 1 upside, or I'm sorry, running back 1 upside. But he's a start. There's a little bit of concern with him though. Personally,
He's getting the touches. Yeah, he's getting the touches. He hasn't been super productive with them. I mean, he almost averaged 5 yards a carry, which if you're getting 5 yards a carry, I think that's probably above average, and he's going to get all the goal line carries, and he scored a touchdown. So if he can put up, I think
once
if he
again,
can
I
put
think
up,
this is his floor.
yeah,
So it's fine.
Mhm.
As long as he scores touchdowns, he's good.
yeah. Yeah, next game, Arizona and Los Angeles. What's your first takeaway from that game?
So Arizona ended up beating the Rams 41-10. Kyler is a top 5 quarterback as far as fantasy. He added some rushing. He's got 2 legit weapons in MHJ and McBride. Connor's a great complement to their passing game. Fire up Kyler is a must-start quarterback for. I don't think it matters who he plays. I know he had a rough week 1 against the Bills, but maybe he played too much Call of Duty this offseason. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe it's possible, but yeah, if he, this is, I think if this is a closer game, it could have been an even better game for the Cardinals offense. But the fact that they blew him out, I think, definitely hurt like his fantasy stat line. But he still put up he was one of my bros this week, along with the next guy, Marvin Harrison Jr., who was also my breakout player this week. After 1 catch for 4 yards, he goes for 4 and 130 and 2 touchdowns, and looked really good. He could, like I said, he could have had another one. So I definitely think you got to keep him in as a wide receiver 2 with some wide receiver 1 upside, because if this offense looks as good as they did today and he can get a little more efficient, that's scary. It's going to be a scary combo. I have that stack in one of my leagues, and I'm hoping that they can carry me to some wins this year.
Yeah, I think I would add he's a for me at least, a high wide receiver 2. Like, he's going to have some rough games, but he's going to get the targets. So just start him.
Hey, quick update on Mixon. He's back in.
Perfect.
So it looked pretty bad, but he's back in. So,
and he's running fine.
Yeah, looked like it. I think they're taking it easy on him because he's coming back out. But yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Back to that game. James Conner looked good too. He's getting all the touches. I definitely think he's if this offense looks this good for the rest of the year, he's got to be a legit top wide receiver, legit RB1.
Yeah, he's gonna be the bell cow. And Trey Benson actually got some work today, but there's no threat there. He is low end RB1, high end RB2, probably somewhere in there. As long as he can stay healthy, he's in your lineup.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as the Rams, though, Kupp is in a walking boot. Stafford has nobody to throw to. Kyren didn't look great, and I think if Kupp and Puka are out, like, you need to look deep at Kyren, and maybe somebody will trade you. Like, if Kupp is out for a while, Puka's out for 6 weeks, I think. They
said 5 to 8.
Okay, yeah, 5 to 8.
Oh,
If you can sell off Kyren in a redraft league and still, like, you got somebody that's willing to give you good value, I would do it.
Yeah.
Sell as high as you can.
He did score a touchdown, but he had 12 carries for 25 yards.
Yeah.
He did have 4 catches. He's going to catch the ball here and there, but if the Rams looked as bad as they did today, and they're without their top 2 pass catchers for an extended period of time, like, this is...
Yeah.
I agree. If you can sell them off to get something else, I would maybe try to do that.
Keyword high, though. I'm not just going to sell Kyren to sell him, because I think he's going to be part of the passing game.
Yeah.
But he's not going to be the dude that he was last year, unless Kupp and...
No.
He could be or I guess if you can buy him low and you don't need to necessarily start him right away, where he can be a playoff, like somebody you can play in the playoffs when Kupp and Puka are back. I like it.
Yeah, I agree.
As far as the next game, I don't even really want to talk about it because it was that bad.
Yeah, me either.
It's the Steelers versus the Broncos. Somehow the Steelers won 13-6. Let's just be realistic. Besides Pickens, don't start anybody else.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't touch anybody on either one of these teams, honestly. Neither one of their offenses has looked good in either week. And yeah, besides Pickens, who's probably the most talented player on either one of these teams, when you're a wide receiver, you can't throw yourself the ball. So
Mhm.
I don't think he's going to do much better, even if when Russell Wilson comes back, if he is a starting quarterback.
I mean,
Um,
Pittsburgh keeps winning,
because I'm
so
pretty sure Pittsburgh is 2-0, right? So
hmm
like, as long as they're winning, why would they want to switch anything? Especially if Wilson's not at 100%. But um, yeah, I wouldn't touch anybody on either one of these teams unless I was playing Pickens as a flex. But
just to put that into perspective, and I was contemplating it this past week, not seriously, but next week. So Pickens is a flex on my in our 12 team PPR league. I'm probably going to start Brian Robinson over him,
yeah,
or we'll see. I have Charbonnet right this week. I started Charbonnet as my RB2, Pickens in my flex, and if Walker's back, Robinson's going to my RB2. I don't trust. I don't even trust Pickens as my flex right now because
right,
he could go for 8 and 130 and a touchdown, or he could have 2 for 15 because Fields is just you just can't trust him.
right.
The next game though, I think we should talk about, and I guess it's the last one before this Sunday night game. One of the better games of the day. Chiefs
Mm-hmm.
versus Bengals. Kansas City once again beat the Bengals 26-25. Thoughts? What's your first takeaway?
Cincinnati definitely looked better
Mm-hmm.
this week. I think they had the game in hand until one of their defensive backs got that DPI, and then Butker's just automatic. So,
Yeah.
you know, 50 yards, 30 yards, whatever, doesn't matter. But fantasy purposes, Pacheco again. I mean, unless this injury is significant, I think you got to keep starting him. I loved him this year. He's gonna get all the work out of that backfield, and we know he can produce. So high RB2, low RB1 for me. Um, but yeah, I guess that depends on what his injury is, or how significant it is, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, you're just going to start him with confidence every week. He's, besides Rice, maybe, he's their best guy, fantasy
Yeah.
wise, because Kelsey's. But speaking of Rice, he is the guy to own, I think. Pacheco's like right behind him, but start him up as a wide receiver one every week. He's
Hmm.
Mahomes' top guy. I already said that 3 times, but you probably should just know that. If you're a Rice
Right.
owner, just be excited. He's gonna get you 10 targets a game, maybe a touchdown, and his upside is probably wide receiver, like the wide receiver one. So
Yeah, I agree. He's he's the most complete guy. He's a big, strong guy. He's fast. He catches. Shouldn't say everything because nobody really catches everything, but yeah, he's the wide receiver to have in this offense. He's been the most targeted guy 2 weeks in a row, and I think Worthy. He's young. He's going to be a boomer bust guy most of the year. Pacheco's going to get some work, and like Travis Kelsey has just been a complete non-factor so far through 2 games. So I agree. And that was the next point I want to touch on is Worthy. Up and down season. I think he's gonna, yeah, boomer bust.
I have him as a flex in
Yeah.
one of my leagues, and he's gonna have games where he gets 20 points, and he's gonna have other ones like today. It he's a rookie. He's explosive,
Yeah.
but he's never gonna get 8 touches a game. Probably like he's gonna be in that 4 to 6 range, and you just hope that he takes 1 or 2 to the house.
Right.
Otherwise, like wide receiver 4, flex wide receiver 4, somewhere in there.
I think you can start him as a flex with his potential as a home run threat whenever he touches the ball. Like last week, he had 3 touches and 2 touchdowns. That's just the kind of explosiveness he has. I think they're. I think Andy Reid is definitely going to figure out ways to get him the ball other than just throwing it to him because he's going to be like a guy like a Tyreek guy where you want to get the ball in his hands just to see what he does with it. So I definitely think there are going to be better days, but he's young, he's a rookie, he's still trying to kind of get his footing. But yeah, and until he like proves he can be a little bit more consistent, I'd say a flex at best.
Yeah. Uh, I need to figure out my flex in that league, but
Yeah.
that's another day. As far as
Hmm.
our top players in the game, Chase and Kelsey, there might be some worries there.
Yeah.
And I think we can talk about them in our next segment, which is called Bumometer. We did our bros and bums, and basically what a bum is it's like a dud. People that just crapped the bed.
Yeah.
And this Bumometer, we might figure out a different name. For now, it's Bumometer, Bumometer, whatever you want to say. Basically, we're gonna ask each other like on let's go 0 to 100 because then we can be way more accurate. 0 to 100.
Oh, gosh.
How worried are you about this player? 100 being I'm dropping him now. I'm so worried. 0 is like I don't even not worried at all. I'm gonna start him every week. So the first player on a Bumometer segment is Travis Kelsey. 0 to 100. Where are you at with him?
I think I'm gonna go with a 65. He hasn't been targeted a lot. The Chiefs offense hasn't looked particularly good through 2 weeks, but I know they started out slow last year as well. Um, so I'm going kind of high because he's definitely proved himself to be a better player, and he's drafted high, and he's got like 4 catches in 2 games. So yeah, I'm gonna go 65.
Yeah, I think I'd put him at like 53, give or take. Similar to yours, a little bit lower, but he's old. He looks old. The Chiefs have some new weapons, and like he's gonna have some games where he goes probably like 6 for 80 and a touchdown, but his ceiling
Yeah.
is way lower. His floor is way lower, and I guess this could lead into our next player. Mahomes just does not look great. What is your How worried are you about Mahomes? 0 to 100.
Um, I'd probably say 25, 30.
Mm-hmm.
He's, real life NFL.
Not worried at all.
He's the best quarterback in the NFL. He's the most established guy, most dominant guy in the NFL as a real life quarterback. But I for one didn't like him as a fantasy quarterback this year because he doesn't run a lot, and his second year in the league, which was technically like his rookie year, was his best league where he's got to be putting up 300 yards and 2 to 3 touchdowns every game to be where he was drafted at.
Yeah.
But again, Chiefs offense started slow last year. I think they'll be able to pick it up. So, yeah, I'd say around 25, 30.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to just say I agree with you. Real life football, not worried at all. Like,
Mm,
if they're winning, who cares?
right.
He doesn't add any rushing. He might get like 3 rushing touchdowns on the year. Um, you already said it. If he's not getting 300 games and 3 touchdowns, he's like, "What's up, Red Label? Welcome to our Twitch stream. We're also recording live on YouTube." But
What up, brother?
Mahomes, yeah, like 30, 35. Well, you know what? Right now, I think they'll pick it up, but I might even go up as high as 40. He
Mhm.
just I he's gonna have a game where he goes off for 40 points randomly, but he's getting like 20 every week, and
Yeah,
you're drafting him as a top five
not
quarterback in
even
most leagues.
not even that.
And in a 4 point passing touchdown league, I'm even more worried, but
Right.
nothing over 50. Uh, the next player on our bumometer, Ron, what do you think? Bumometer or bumometer?
I think I like bummometer. I don't know.
Okay.
Bummometer sounds too nerdy.
Yeah, no, it sounds like we're measuring earthquakes or something.
Hey, Nick, could you pass me the bummometer over there on that
Exactly.
shelf?
Yeah, bummometer. I like bummometer.
Gotta get my glasses. Red Label heading into work, but wanted to say what's up. Appreciate you stopping by. We're almost done. We've got a couple new segments.
Hmm.
This one's called Bumometer. But yeah, our next player is Jamar Chase. How worried are you about Jamar Chase?
I
As
definitely
an
think the
owner
Chiefs
of
made
him.
it. Yeah, Chiefs definitely made a big effort to take him out of the game, and it worked. They stuck Trent McDuffie on him this week. I know he missed a lot of training camp disputing the contract, but he's just too good. It's too early in the season. I think I'm going to go with like a 15-20 here. He's just too good of a player to. I think he started off pretty slow last year too, but I think 2 weeks is too early to try to worry about a guy as talented as he is. So I'm gonna go 20.
Yeah, I was gonna say like maybe 10. This is his floor, and I'm not worried at all. He's gonna bounce back
Yeah.
as long as Burrow stays healthy, and even if he doesn't, he was good with Jake Browning last year. But our next player,
Right.
Joe Burrow, he was fine for like real life football. Not like I don't think Burrow will ever be a top five quarterback ever again, just because this is I don't know. I love Burrow, but with Higgins out, no more Mixon. Where are you at with Burrow? If you're worried about him at all.
I'm probably at like a 50. Most of what I saw today in that game is that he just didn't have any time and he didn't look comfortable in the pocket. Um, when the defense is scheming to take your best pass catcher out of the game, it's hard to succeed. Like when you have to throw to Mike Gesicki 9 times, the defense definitely game planned well for you. And I think that the Chiefs' defensive line is very good, and the offensive line for the Bengals is not. So I think there are definitely better days to come. He's got a track record for being pretty bad in September too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go. I said 50, but I think I'm gonna go with like a 45, just because I think he's gonna get better as the season goes on.
I'm gonna go like 60. One, I wasn't super high on Burrow this year in the first place, but I think his ceiling, as of right now, if Higgins comes back, it'll help. But his ceiling's got to be like 303 touchdowns. Like
Right.
he's talented.
Good.
He's the number one pick, but without that run game, it's gonna make it so hard.
Yeah, he could have better days. I think he ran into two good defenses the last. New England's got a good defense. The Chiefs have a pretty good defense as well, so it could be matchups. But I agree with Red Label. Burrowhead is officially dead.
Yeah,
He hasn't won there the last 2 times he's played.
and they'll probably meet again
hope-
this winter. So
Yeah, definitely possible. Playoffs. Never know.
next player though, Sam Laporta. You own him in a few leagues. I own him in a league. He's probably the only tight end you own. Where are you at with him?
with him, this is another one like with Kelsey where I'm kind of at like a 65-70. It's scary to see the guy that finished as a tight end one used so scarcely, and definitely the Lions just haven't looked like the same offense as they were last year. So I'm going to say 65-70.
I think my initial response would be the same, but I'm probably down. By the way, Red Label, thanks for the comment. He said, I like the overlays, boys. Looks clean. This is a massive upgrade from our last one.
Yes.
There will be many more improvements in our streams, or our videos, should I say. And this is just the start. I should mention, Red Label, we do have some emotes in the works. And the one I'm most excited for is Dump Off City.
Dump Off City.
Ron, I hate to say it, but I'm getting another one that says "Wake Up, Ron." It's gonna be hilarious. But Laporta, I think
your boy's not gonna be falling asleep anymore.
Dump Off.
I was definitely taken to heart the second part of our podcast name on Friday night.
It was Friday night. It's there's no biggie. And yes, Ron,
it is what it is.
Ron, he finally woke up. As far as Sam Laporta, I think I'm at like a 30. They did lose to Tampa Bay, so I'm hoping that they like dig deep and are like, all right, we've had 2 not great weeks. They won week 1, but like, what do we need to do? Hey, let's get Sam Laporta the ball. So I'm hoping next week that they're just gonna feed him the ball. And next, who knows?
It'd be nice.
Not terribly worried, but shaking in my boots a little bit. Next player, though, is Garrett Wilson for the Jets.
I'd probably go with 35. I think this was probably a game where he saw a lot of L'Jarius Sneed. I know he got outproduced by Alan Lazard the game before, but again, another really good defense, and he's just too talented. Him and Hall are gonna be the focus of that offense for the year, so I'd say maybe 20-25.
Yeah. So Garrett Wilson himself clearly doesn't worry me. I'd put him at like a 5 though, just because I think they're gonna run the ball a lot. And Aaron Rodgers is not the same player. I think like his floor is still like 5 for 50, so 10, 12 points, and he's gonna have some games where he blows up because Rodgers can be that guy. Right. But week to week, is he gonna get 10? Is he gonna get 25? Like, hard to say. Red Label, thanks for stopping by. We should be live tomorrow night.
Thanks, broski.
So if you get a chance, join us again. In our Discord, YouTube's in there. After we're done, if you want to watch it, see everything we talked about, you definitely can. But as far as the next player, Brandon Ayuk for the 49ers, where you at?
I'll put him at like a 55-60. He definitely hasn't looked the same. He looks rusty, but I think maybe the big contributor is that he just didn't contribute in the off season as much as a normal player would when you're, when he's discussing like a contract extension. So it's concerning to see him not produce, but I kind of get it. So I'd say about a 50.
Yeah, I hate saying the words I agree because we can't just agree on everything. But I'm probably at like a... God, this is hard. Probably like a 40. He... Just in general, the 49ers offense... Yes, they beat the Jets last week. They did not do great against the 49ers. I think they're really going to miss CMC. And as good as Mason is, CMC is a game changer, like a scheme changer on defense. And when you have him, then Ayuk, I think, becomes way better. Purdy can actually like do what he does, and without CMC, like that offense just isn't the same. So yeah, I think I'd put him at like a 40.
Yeah.
One of your top players coming into the year, or not top, but you loved this guy, Terry McLaurin.
I had him as my start of the week once, and that's it. I thought it was going to be a good matchup, but I don't.
Man crush of the day, Terry McLaurin. I'm just messing.
Yeah, I don't know. I troubling to see a guy who's as talented as he is just not get involved in this offense at all, and it could just be Daniels going through, just going through his progression as a quarterback, and maybe, kind of learning how to go through his reads and stuff like that, and maybe he just hasn't liked what he's seen when he's looked McLaurin's way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a little concerning to see that he's pretty much a non-factor so far through 2 weeks. So I'd probably say I think it's going to get better because I think Daniels is going to get better. So I think I'd probably go with like a 55.
Yeah, the troubling thing is through 2 games, Daniels still has yet to throw a touchdown pass, and he's averaging like 206 yards a game.
Yeah.
He at least completed 23 passes a day, but still, I don't think McLaurin, like right now, I think I'm having him as like a flex. He clearly has wide receiver 2 upside. Daniels is the best quarterback he'll ever play with. Like, he had a 79% completion percentage today, so he's going to be good in real football. But how many touchdowns is he going to throw this year? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he only throws 15 touchdowns. Daniels.
Yeah. So
there has to be a little bit of worry. I don't even know if I said my number, like 60, 70 maybe for McLaurin. If I have other options, I'm not starting McLaurin next week.
I agree.
So I do have somebody that has been asking me about this, McLaurin. So you know who you are. If you're listening, start Montgomery over McLaurin next week. I told him to do it this week, and he didn't. And what happened? So that was my dad. I just had to give him. I know if he watches it, I got to give him a little bit of crap. But the last player on our list, and it probably shouldn't even be on here because he's young, he's a rookie. But are you worried about McConkey at all with Quentin Johnson's day?
No, I still think McConkey is going to have a good year. This was a game where Los Angeles is playing the worst team in the league. They didn't have to pass a whole lot. It was a ground game domination day for them, and that's probably going to be the case for anybody that's playing Carolina. So, it's somebody who's high on him. It stinks to see him have a game like this, but I don't think there will be many, and I think moving forward he'll do better. I think I'd probably at like a 20 with him.
Yeah, I'm almost close to 0 on him. Rough day, but by the way, I gotta look up something real quick. Justin Herbert, he went out of the game earlier, didn't he? Injures leg. How hurt is he? If you want to look this up while I'm talking about McConkey,
go ahead.
I got you. I know he went to the tent, and I never really looked up to see what happened, but I'm not worried about McConkey at all. I'd maybe put him at like a 10. I hope that Quentin Johnson can complement him because McConkey's a slot. He's not he's going to handle a lot of the inner work where hopefully Johnson can work on the sidelines, maybe some deep balls, more of a red zone target. McConkey will almost never get you 30 points right now because he's just not going to get a lot of touchdowns. But he could definitely be like 15 points every week because I could see him going like 7 for 80, anything in that range Were you able to find anything on Herbert?
Yeah. Yeah, so sounds like he got rolled up on his leg. But he was able to come back in. It was the third quarter. He finished the game. So
Okay, so
looks like he was getting some X-rays done, but that's about as much information as I can find on it.
I am praying he's okay, because in our Superflex League, our IDP Dynasty, I only had 2 quarterbacks going into this year. And it was Jordan Love and Justin Herbert. So I'm going to be 4-0 in that league, I think. I got to look. I haven't looked recently, but do you have anything else that you wanted to go over today?
No, I think that's about it. Did some good recaps. I love the bros and bums that we're going to be doing, and the bumble meter stuff.
Bumometer.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Okay, bumometer.
Bumometer. Yeah, it was a good time. I'm looking forward to doing more videos. As far as the audience, if you like our content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Whenever you subscribe, you will get notifications of when we post videos. If we ever go live, you'll get notifications of that as well. If you comment on our videos, as far as anything fantasy football related, start, sit, worry meter, which most people call it, trade questions, like literally anything, we will answer it in our next question. In our next video. Likes, subscriptions, none of this is expected, but it will help us continue to build our stream. As you can see, we already got some pretty cool overlays. But we will be back tomorrow night to talk about waivers, and if we can do it late enough in the night, we will go over some of the recap of the Monday night game. So,
and definitely over some of the Sunday night game as well.
Yes, Sunday night recap. But thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time on Bros and Beers.
Peace out, y'all.